Yes, job people, this is Michael Shamai representing. I will say, Haile Lion voice, saying it is time for the lions and the lionesses to tell their own story. King David killed Goliath with a stone, we original dread.
The time has come for the lioness to tell her own story.
Yo, this is Vagabonds and time have come for the lion to tell them own story. This is the Lion's Voice. Stay tuned.
The fittest of the fittest shall survive. My people, open your eyes. Wake up. Blessed love, this is Queen Omega representing for all lions and lionesses. With the lion's voice, we come to tell our story. Rastafari, live it. Hey, the lion's voice, Rastafari.
Greetings, this is Warrior King, and the time has come for the lions and the lionesses to tell their own story. This is the lion's voice. Give thanks and praise for the wonderful blessing that's been poured on me. Give thanks and praise. Jah use I as an instrument to set the people free. Jah give her the powers to chant. Jah give her the powers to chant. Rastafari, the lion's voice.
Amina, the time has come for the lioness to tell our own story. No surrender, no retreat, we are Jaja soldier. Rougher than the streets, tougher than a boulder. Bigging up Lamb's voice. Now put it, I Jollifer said that.
This is Sangy Davis. It's time for the lion to Ika. For unity is strength. Let us come together, my brethren and sisters, and forward to the motherland. Enough love. This is the lion's voice.
Haile.
Ja
Rastafari.
I'm Wnnefer Jengo. The time has come for the lioness to tell her story from her viewpoint and tell the world who Queen Omega is. This is the lion's voice.
Yeah, David Dread of Steel Pulse, and I'm saying hail to the lion voice because it's time that the lion have its voice, have its own story. Says I'm stepping out here, hear me now. Oh, yeah, the lion's voice. Raw.
Well, lion voice, tell them that's the people first choice. Lion voice, make the lioness them feel nice. Lion voice, with the lion cubs we sacrifice. Lion voice, got to show the people them the life. Lion voice.
This is culture sound, a Rastaman sound, positive sound.
Culture sound system with DJ Culture Fire TG.
And now you're in tune to the culture sound, Rasta sound.
Culture sound, because I'm DJ Culture Fire TG.
I help coming from the true living eyes, Imperial Majesty Emperor Haile Selassie I, who created Zion and earth. He shall not suffer and I foot to be moved. I hold, he that keepeth Ethiopia shall neither slumber nor sleep. Well, youths in the streets right now, riots in your town now, Babylon them burning down. One bad police right now, riots in your town now, Babylon them burning down. No justice, no peace right now, riots in your town now, Babylon them burning down. The fire now cease right now, riots in your town now, Babylon them burning down. The youth them rise against brutality, man a kill another man for your salary. Them train them at the shooting gallery, black and loot, you might lose all your family. Them defend white supremacy, so them see the African as them enemy.
Yeah, I'm gonna say culture sound
like this for centuries, them sick mentally. That's why we have the out in the streets right now. Riots in your town now, Babylon them burning down. One bad police right now.
The year is 1892, and the land of Ethiopia has been experiencing 4 years of terrible famine and drought. They call it the Kikuken, or the evil days. At least 1/3 of the human population and 90% of the cattle have died. The hyenas have feasted on so many carcasses that they have become overweight and barely able to move. Just when the people could take no more of the evil days, a woman named Wasiro Yeshimabet is giving birth in a place called Urgersa Gora. This is her 9th attempt to bring forth new life. Her previous 8 attempts only resulted in death. Will this child live? Thankfully, a healthy baby boy is born. His first cries are drowned by thunder and lightning flashes across the night sky. The heavens open up and torrential rain starts to fall. Ethiopia's drought is over, and the baby boy is given the name Tafari, meaning one to be feared or respected. Tafari's father, Ras McCunnan, is a very important man in 1892 Ethiopia. Although he is overjoyed at the birth of his newborn son, he cannot spend much time with him. Ras McCunnan is the governor of Harar and must get back to the famous walled city to deal with its affairs. Furthermore, he is the foreign minister of Ethiopia, and having traveled to different places in Europe, he is very aware of the material and military advances they have made and the looming threats they pose to his country. Ras McCunnan knows that the majority of Ethiopians have no idea what is coming, and that he has to work that much harder to secure the realm. Tafari would grow up to become the legendary emperor, Haile Selassie I. To understand his journey, we must first understand the Ethiopia that he was inheriting and what it was like when he was born in 1892. Get your copy of Kwesi Bansu's book, Haile Selassie I, Ethiopia, Volume 1, The Rise of the Priestly Warrior Kings, and increase your knowledge about the history, politics, and culture of Ethiopia in 1892, and how it connects to the rest of African and world history at the time. Haile Selassie I, Ethiopia, Volume 1 is available for purchase at www.bookmanexpress.pub. Please visit for more information.
Greetings in that divine name of His Imperial Majesty, Emperor Haile Selassie I. Glory and honor in the name of His chosen Queen, Empress Waziri Menen. My name is Kwesi Bansu, aka the Chazmatch Kwesi, aka Ras Kwesi, aka the Reading Ras, aka the Pan-African Happy Man, creative industry attorney. I'm an author, I'm an artist, I'm an actionist, and right now I am the host of Lion Talk Live. Welcome to Lion Talk Live, and welcome to the Lion Voice Network, where the lions are telling our own story. Give thanks and praises to everyone within this creation for the manifestation. We have an episode tonight, epic episode for the item. Get your item snacks, get your thing them ready so that we can full joy this one. If it's sacrament, get your sacrament, whatever you do, because we are going up within the high heavens tonight. And I guess who is going to join us shortly from the island of St. Lucia. We're going live to St. Lucia, the island of Ayalola. So all of my Caribbean Lion Pride family, big up on yourself. Before we bring forward today's guest, let me take the time to big up the Lion Pride. And if this is your first time on the platform, if you subscribe, you're part of the Lion Pride family. The Lion Pride is one of the greatest audiences on the internet. I will say that, not just because I am curator of the Lion Pride, but because the love, the comments, the shares, the community that is forming is unprecedented. The Lion Pride grew by over 2,000 people in the last 7 days. And I mean, we are at the cusp right now. During this episode, we're going to hit 24,000 people in the Lion Pride. We're at 23,999 right now. So as we speak, go tell your brethren, subscribe and push us to the 24,000. We'll update you as soon as we cross that border line. However, let me just tell the item that we're just getting started. This is Rastafari Independent Non-Aligned Media. The time has come for the Lions to tell our own story. We are part of the unity. When the history is written, we will be there to document the stories of the family as we rose out of our Western abode and we returned home to the African continent. This is the most epic story ever told, unfolding the journey of people of African descent, coming from the four corners of this great earth to return to Mama Africa, to build the foundation of heaven on earth, which will cover the earth in righteousness and peace and safety and security. We're living in those days. Now, having said that, the next 4 years is going to be a rocky road. Let me tell them this truth. You know what I mean? It's a rocky road ahead. So we're not naive. We're not sugarcoating anything. We are going to face great tribulation. And this is why the unity is so important. And one thing about this platform, we're bringing voices from across the spectrum of Rastafari. And I want to reiterate this to our audience. Unity does not mean uniformity. Let me say that again. Unity does not mean uniformity. We have to hear from all of the diversity of thought within Rastafari. That is what makes the movement great. That is what causes us to sharpen ourselves. So we bring all perspectives. You'll see Naya Bingi on the platform. You see Bobo Shanti on the platform. You see 12 Tribe of Israel on the platform. We have Rastafari Allies, EWF on the platform. Orthodox Church on the platform. You know, we're bringing voices across the spectrum. You know, ones who burn the Bible, they're here too. All across the spectrum. The only criteria is that we keep the reasoning high level. You know, we cannot bring ignorance in front of the Lion Pride. I am here as a curator. I take that responsibility. And tonight's guest is going to give us a Kemetic and traditional African spirituality view of Rastafari. I'm looking forward. You know, coming from St. Lucia, anyone coming from St. Lucia, immediately I have to call my elder Bongo Wisely. And when I call Bongo Wisely and tell him about the brethren, him say, yeah man, the brethren, they're well studied, and you know. So I have to humble to my elders. I come up in that tradition as a Rastafari, mature adult right now. Still, you know, we seek the wise counsel of the ancient. That is the tradition that we learn, and that is the tradition that we love. So Bongo Wise is yeah. So tonight we're gonna go into that Nile Valley civilization. So get ready to take some notes. We're gonna also touch Kumina, all them thing, the revival as the brethren, you know, has a history of the rise of the Rastafari in the Caribbean. So I'm looking forward to that. All right, before we get there though, I want to just big up the Rastafari Mansion and organization in Jamaica. This Sunday, all roads lead to Trelawney, to Salt Marsh, Trelawney, for the first Harambe Hall of the year. And for those who don't know, we've talked about it on the platform. The Harambe Hall is the effort of the umbrella organization in Jamaica to reach out to the community, you know, be transparent about what they're doing. They have a town hall where they reason about, you know, the agenda, get community feed forward. There's a farmer's market showcasing the Ital farmers. There's a craft market showcasing the crafts. Naya Bingi presentations, you know, Bobo Shanti do them style of Naya Bingi School of Vision, Naya Bingi House. All of the different ones come forward. to showcase their culture, and then we seal it up. We have the open mic portion where we have, our Rastafari creatives and artists, on rhythms, freeing up themselves and thing. And you never know who will forward to these events. It's a Rastafari expo, in a sense where we just highlighting the culture. So I want to just big up the RMO. We have a short ad I'm going to play here right now. So we Yes. So the INT is happening in real life. Big up the All Mansion effort in Trinidad and Tobago. We just launched our latest Lion Talk with Honorable Priest Imesley. If you have not seen that, the first Bobo Shanti brethren to trod in Trinidad, and we sat with the elder to hear the history, touching history. The first part has been released. The full episode is available right now for the Lion Pride on Patreon. So for all of the Lion Pride, that's one of the benefits you get for being part of the financial engine. You get to see all of the Lion Talk as them drop. They drop first in the Lion Pride on Patreon. And we're running our 100 Lion Pride Strong campaign right now. We're looking for 100 people to join us in the Lion Pride at Patreon. All who join above the $10 mark get free consultation, creative consultation with I&I. I want to help 100 of I&I build their creative ecosystem. So you see how we're the fastest growing platform, Rastafari platform. I want to share that knowledge and build a collective of 100 of I&I rising as a force. I don't want to be up there by myself as a target. Because I know what I'm doing. Yes, we can go up there, and that is not an interest to I&I. I do this because I'm passionate. I love it, but I don't want to be lonely. You know what I mean? We want everyone to rise. And right now, as a content creator, everyone should have a YouTube channel. And you need to start today. Don't just watch I and say, wow, look what the Ras is doing. No, everyone should have a YouTube channel, because all of I&I have a product or a service that we're selling. And once you have a product or a service, then you need to, YouTube is the second largest search engine on the planet. The key is that we use YouTube, and then, we use it to gather the people's emails so that we can connect off the platform, because we don't own YouTube. YouTube can kick us off any day, anytime. So make sure, you can also join the Patreon for free. You join the Patreon, we get your email, or go to our website, thechazmatchkwasi.com. Subscribe on the website so we have your email and information off platform. This is the age of direct to consumer. So no matter what you're doing with your product or your service, there's no such thing as a local business. Every business is international in the internet age. You can have something within your brands that you own that you can offer to an international audience. It can be a t-shirt, anything. So join in the Patreon. Again, everyone over the $10 gets consultations. I think it ends up to be 14 half-an-hour consultations. So definitely, hold on 1 second here. Definitely, hold on there. Definitely join and let us build together 100 Lion Pride strong. That is the effort that we are dealing with right now. Big up the Ubuntu Lion Pride, The Carib Life Nation has joined. This is a one-time contribution. Any business, family that supports the platform, a one-time contribution over $70 US puts you in the Ubuntu Lion Pride. You can see the Serengeti plane when I show the image at the beginning is starting to full up now. The family is checking in and we love it. You know what I mean? This is unprecedented what we're building. And there's no one else but I that can build what the item see I'm building. But the item also have something unique that the I can build that no one else can build to. So this is why it's so important that I and I connect right now. This is the Armageddon. It's not a drill. This is not a dress rehearsal. Armageddon is real. We're watching the fall of Babylon, living in color. We saw the whole earth locked down and don't feel like that's not going to happen again. So this is the preparation. We are watching the rising of the African continent, the unity. The Sahel, we've been covering what's happening in the Sahel region. Africa rising. We see what's happening now in Ghana, this wave of youth. The Pan-African Irids have returned to the earth. What a time to be alive, people. You know what I mean? So now is the time to start whatever that dream, passion that you had, that you put onto the side. You know what I mean? Now is the time to start. But I'm not saying you can't burn your chalice and burn your herbs and all of that and feel nice. But start. Be diligent. Be consistent. Consistency beats perfection every day of the strong. So big up. I had some consultations with some of my Lion Pride, and one of them say, I'm on telling them to start, encourage them to really get serious about launching their YouTube channel and getting their things together, building their creative ecosystem. And these are the things that make Iman feel so joyful, you know what I mean? So big up all of the Lion Pride, the Watch and Peep Lion Pride. You know what I mean? We're nearing 40,000 views in 28 days. It's just like, it's so humbling to see the growth of the channel. I remember some of the items were here when we had 1 and 2 people watching, and now you can see, we just got a sound from Portugal, And if you're watching from somewhere around the world, put it in the comments, check in, let us know. We had a sister from New Zealand who say, yeah man, big up from New Zealand. We love that. So we're building a global Rastafari Pan-African community. So we're going to be interviewing a lot more of the Pan-African community in addition to just races. We're going to be interviewing STEM. We're going to be focusing on science, technology, engineering, and math. I know races who are in all of those fields. We're going to start bringing some of those on. So get ready to see Rastafari and STEM. We are building family, the building of Zion, and a joke thing. We have structural engineers, civil engineers, all kind of mathematicians. Get ready for the Lion Voice STEM. We are doing a special for Reggae Month. We're going to be bringing some artists on the platform, having some discussions about reggae, the music industry for February. We have a special for Battle of Adowa. March, all Rastafari sistering all month leading up to Empress Men in Earth Strong. It's going to be all Rastafari sistering for the month of March, going deep into what's happening with our sistering them. So we have a lot planned, family. So join the revolution. We're still early. And without the item, we go nowhere. So it's not I'm just the representative that Haile Selassie rise up in this time to be the curator, but it's the item. So clap the item self, because without the item, there's no platform. You know what I mean? And right now, again, one more subscriber, we reached 24,000. So please, someone who's watching, if you're not subscribed, be the 24,000. You know what I mean? Push us over the edge. Someone, please, push us over the edge. While we wait for that, big up Ras Lidge. Lidge, big up yourself from Mia King Designs, one of our sponsors. He came in before we hit 500, I think, subscribers, the Bridgency Division. Big up Ras Woolde, Seabass Life, all of the family around the world that made this possible. And we are going to just continue to do the work. All right. Housekeeping out of the way. Lion Pride from around the world. Please and thank you. Help I to welcome, and I may be saying this incorrectly so the brethren can correct I. Help I to welcome live from St. Lucia, the brethren Wnnefer Jengo. Welcome, Wnnefer Jengo. Correct I, brethren. Give I the correct pronunciation.
Sorry, it's Wnnefer Jengo. Greetings, everyone. Lion Bride family. I hope you can hear me. I'm not able to. Oh, you took a break. Okay. Yeah. Well, let me introduce myself. My name is Wasa Hiruma, also known as Wnnefer Jengo. I was raised in the island of St. Lucia, educated, of course, in the colonial system, of religious education, and I was searching for my people. I was searching for my people in I'm still there? Oh, sorry. Okay. Yes, I was searching for my people and I couldn't find them. The teaching, especially of history in schools, it was so depersonalized, I couldn't see myself in there. And the Western media had me as a Europhiliac, and I was practicing Afrophobia. So when I was showing movies like, Rambo series, the Rambo and all these movies, I was backing, of course, the star of the protagonist of the movie, not realizing that I was actually supporting white supremacy as a youth. So growing up, I was very interested in knowing about the Creator and this lovely world I was growing up in. And the people told me that there was this being that created this beautiful world that had so much nice, sweet things to eat and so much beautiful things, rainbows, the beach. So I was very intrigued. So I began reading a lot of books on theology.
Okay. Hold on, stick a pin, because I had some technical difficulties. I dropped off.
I realized that.
Yes, so I don't even know where the I started, but the I tell that this is collective security family. The brethren never skip a beat. I want to bubble this pot very fully. This is an ital sip tonight. I and the I. This is our first in-depth reasoning. Make we bubble the pot nice. Step into the Lion Talk time machine. Take us to the I origin, the moment of your birth, and give us the full origin story of the I. Where were you born, and the I journey to Rastafari. I know that's what you were doing, but make we build it so I can.
Yeah, man.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, I was born in the island of St. Lucia, or better known as Ayanola, which is more the original name than the name given by the Europeans that came here. I was born in 1979.
Okay.
The last day of April, and I grew up single mother household, very strong woman, and very a disciplinarian.
Okay. Was it inner city, rural?
Yeah.
What was the city?
You can say you can say urban and rural, because we
Okay.
moved about a bit.
Okay.
Yeah. I went to, well, one of the most prestigious schools on the island, I would say, St. Mary's College.
Okay.
And it was there that I had a lot of thoughts, a lot of contemplation of who am I, my purpose, ontology, um, how did it everything begin, who was this God they speak about. But my interpretation at that time was a white God.
Okay.
That's what I was taught. You know, he looked like a cowboy. So and I started to read a lot of books on theology. Who was this Jesus Christ? The different ecumenical councils, and it was very intriguing. I was very interested, but I was still searching for my people. In school, they taught us about Christopher Columbus and John Hawkins, Francis Drake, Queen Elizabeth, but where was my people? I could not relate to the slaves in my history class because the knowledge was it was coming in a depersonalized way. It was coming like I was on the outside looking into something, but I was actually in it.
Okay.
So later on in life, um, Rastafari appealed to me because I guess it was the only expression I could relate to this thing I was feeling inside me.
Okay.
And
So
I
what,
didn't
what
know.
what age are we talking about now? Give us some
uh, we,
frame.
we're talking about 15, 16.
Okay.
Yeah. And I started my journey very biblical. You know, we used to walk with our New Testament in our back pocket, and we were
Okay.
trying to put the words into ourselves. So we didn't need the paper anymore. So I used to read the Bible, I used to study the Bible. I read my Bible from Genesis to Revelation, and I was still searching for my people. And then I met my teacher. His name was Abdullah. My brethren and I, we were going to this nice park in the city, and we were looking for papers. So we spun around, went to one of the ghettos. There was a shop, and whilst in the shop, I heard this roaring voice. We are older than Adam and Eve.
Hmm.
Adam and Eve is just yesterday. So I was peeking outside, you know, not trying to be seen, but thinking, who's this madman? Where did he get that information from? I really want to know more. So I looked and then I saw him, but he was my estranged cousin, and we had a relationship. I used to go up to his home, bring my offerings of cannabis, and we used to sit in and we used to watch. He had a lot of cassettes and DVDs. He introduced me to J. Rogers, Dr. Ben, John
Yes.
Henry Clark,
Yes.
all the great ones. And from there, we just kept on adding books and adding books and adding books and keeping the study alive.
Yes.
And it came to a time when I realized that the Bible isn't our history.
Mm-hmm.
That is the history of a people from the Levant we know as the Jews.
Mm-hmm.
So I was searching for my history, and then I found it in Cash Kemet.
Mm-hmm.
And in Cash Kemet, you find the oldest writings in the pyramid of the ninth Nosubiti of the fifth dynasty, we call Unas.
Okay.
And then you have the coffin text. At that time, of course, there wasn't any story of Adam and Eve. There wasn't any Masoretic script.
Okay.
Homer hadn't written the Iliad and Odyssey yet. So we're talking in way back in history.
And I want the eye to give the Egyptian conception of creation. Many people hear about Kemet, but in terms of their story, articulate what was the story of the people of Kemet.
Okay. The first people to enter Kemet were the Anu people.
Okay.
The Anu, what we would call today as the Twa. The derogative name would be pygmies.
Yes, yes.
But these are the short people who knew every herb, every plant, who would speak with the animals, study the animals. The Irish deified them, called them leprechauns. But these people are the ones who really gave the next set of people to come in, the Bantu, the knowledge of all the plants and the animals.
Okay.
So these people, there are different concepts of creation, because no one could go back when the first people came walking on the earth. But how we observe nature, we observe that if you plant a seed under the ground, the earth alone would not make that seed grow. You would need the sky. So the earth and the sky would have to come together to bring life. So it was an agrarian religion. It came out of farming and what we observed in nature. Okay? And what we observed were cosmic principles, because there are no gods in ancient Egypt. There's only one, what we call the Neter, which we call Amen.
Okay.
And Amen or Imen was the hidden and the concealed. So no one had the authority to say, my God is better than your God, which we see in the monotheistic religions that
Yes.
came through the house of Abraham.
We also see Amen survive, within the Psalms.
Yes.
Every church, and most of them don't know where that sound come from. That is a Nile Valley ancient sound.
Yes.
And I want to reason with the eye, because I disagree in terms of the Hebrew not being I and I. I think it's firmly established that there were African people coming out of that same Nile Valley situation, because when you talk about the Levant, you're talking about Cush. You know what I mean? Even within the same Bible tell you that, that area was founded by the descendants of Cush. So I would disagree, but I want the eye, because we talk about Heru, we talk about Asar, Aset. I want you to get into that whole fullness in terms of coming from Amen, or Amen Ra, they would say. Give us the whole concept, that underpins the Nile Valley civilizations, because these things, and then also Netta and all these things, because the Kemet, Kemet, according to their history, come from the same Ethiopia, come down the Nile. So give us that story so that we can set the framework for the reasoning.
Okay. Well, before I start talking about Kemet, let me just talk about the chronology.
Mm-hmm.
The Phoenicians were African people.
Yes.
The Kemetiu were African people.
Yes.
The Canaanites were African people.
That is correct.
What we call the Jews,
Mm-hmm.
the Dorians, the Hittites, the Philistines, these are people that came from Eurasia. And they came later on. In the distant past, all this was black people. But later on, we saw an influx of Eurasians. That's why the culture of, boy.
Hold on one second here. One of them things that happened, you know what I mean? We're dealing with all kinds. All right, come on. Go through.
All right. Yeah, I was saying that we can see from the culture
Mm-hmm.
of the entity they call Yahweh
Yes.
that this Yahweh is not a product of African culture. We have to look at the patriarchy.
Okay.
We have to look at the bigotry. And we have to look at a being still fettered with human frailties.
I'm gonna need some sources because
Okay.
the research does not support your claims. You know what I mean?
Okay. My examples, let's go
Because
through.
white supremacists try to place the Hebrews as an Indo-European culture. You know, this was attempted by the ites of Europe. These things have been thoroughly collapsed. One of my teachers, Dr. Kane Hopefelder from Howard School of Divinity, did several expeditions to Palestine to uncover these facts. So when you make these claims, you have to become a know the eyes are reading Rasto.
Mhm.
You have to present some sources
Okay.
that are going to give the people direction where to get this information.
Okay. There was an archaeological dig done in Lachish, which is in the Bible, and it was a Israelite settlement. When they examined the culture and the bones in that settlement, they found out that these were a Eurasian people. The culture, the pottery, everything pointed to these people that had came in later on into the Levant. Also, if you look at the story of Eve, what is the story of Eve but the replica of the story of Pandora? When Zeus said to Hermes, "Let us put into her cunning and slyness and the ways of the morals of a bitch, and so she should be the ruin of mankind." So we see the Greeks, because at that time the Greeks were in control. And at the writing of the Septuagint, Philadelphus commissioned the Jewish patriarchs, the Sanhedrin, to write their laws and their story, and they wrote the Septuagint. But in Maspero's book, it says that along with them at the table was a Platonist. And so you see how a lot of the esoteric of the Bible comes from Plato and the whole Greek philosophy. Example.
The thing I would say to the eyes, where does Greek philosophy come from?
Yes, Greek philosophy comes
Where did the
from
Greek alphabet come from?
Greek alphabet came from the Phoenician script. And the
Okay,
Phoenician script came from the Kemetic script.
so is I culture you're speaking of?
Well, there was a change in culture from when we talk about the Mycenaean civilization and then going on to the invasion of the Dorians, when they changed from being a matriarchal society to a patriarchal society. So we see all that's why the chronology is important, because things change. Like we had the invasion of the Sea Peoples, which Ramses or Ramesu III had to fight off. We have the Hyksos, and by the way, Josephus says the Hyksos were the Jews. So we can see the difference of culture when it comes to the bigotry and the deity of the scriptures preferring the burning flesh offering rather than the first harvest of the first fruits. Also, we have to look at the beginnings of Christianity.
Mm-hmm.
But let's take a trip.
But stick a pin, because again, um, where did the Hebrew become Eurasian? Because according to um, if they arise from the Levant,
Mm-hmm.
which is Iraq, modern day Iraq today,
Mm-hmm.
again Kushite, there's no history of their migration from a northern European destination. One, according to the script, they were indistinguishable from those who lived in Kemet. Um, that was uh, also accounted by Josephus within his history of the Jews. The story of Joseph, Moses, all of these patriarchs. Um, Moses' time in Ethiopia, governing um, in Sudan, and several other instances. So for there's a brethren who goes into the DNA markers as well. You also have the West African tribes who, according to their own cosmology, will give you that history of where they come from. The Hebrew language being Afro-Asiatic or Afro-Semitic. Again, this has been something that the white supremacists have tried to label the Hebrew as European from the age of conquest, scramble for Africa. So unless the eye can show a migration from Europe down into the Levant, then I would, overstand. The Garden of Eden also encompassed the land of Cush. All of these things speak to a black origin. Genetics, would even speak to a black origin. You cannot get white from black, but white can come out of the black. So if we're going, and science takes us back to the mitochondrial Eve. So regardless if we go from the biblical tradition, we go from a genetic tradition, you're going to go black. So for it does not compute in terms of the Hebrews again being Europeans.
I
I
no,
think
I won't
later,
say.
later in the journey, just like Sumar and Acadia, you had some intermixture because, of course, there was conquest and these things. So I would not disagree that in later Iowa, you know what I mean. I would also not say that the Hebrews were jet black, Cushite, Sudanese, black as well. But just like today, melanated people have a wide variation. You know what I mean? So I want that I show how these African Hebrews could be European.
Okay.
And I did
Um.
touch the Falasha. I see the comment on Ethiopia. Because Ethiopia crashed the whole argument to in terms of this being a European cosmology. Because when we look at the Battle of Adwa and the ultimate victory of African people, it come down under the banner of the same Judah, which you say is a European, um, coming from a European root, which the Almighty never set it that way. I don't see that. But explain to I because I want to get the I point of view.
Okay. Well, I didn't. I don't think they were European, but they were Eurasian.
You find
Um.
that are they melanated people? Because I go through the four corners of the earth. When you look at the Cheddar Man in England,
Mhm.
these are so we need to be clear because if we're throwing around these terms, we have to be clear. Were they melanated people? And if they're
No,
not, then show me that
no,
evidence.
they were not melanated.
Okay.
Next, well, you see, this comes from Shikanta Diop, and also when I read of the Jews coming into Alexandria and what was going on in Kemet at the time, while they were chasing away the natives from Alexandria, they were freeing the Jews out of slavery from the coffers of the state. and they were given a nice piece of land close to Alexandria, to the coast. So, and a lot of racial segregation went on in Alexandria between the Greeks, the Jews, and the natives. So it was all this information that I was gathering from Diop, from
Mhm.
archaeological finds.
Remember that when you talk about Alexander, you're talking about after Alexander the Greek. You're talking about after the Maccabean, the domination of Greeks in Jerusalem. So you're gonna have admixture, conversion, all of that. That is later in the trad again. So
Yes,
this is where
yes.
you understand the disagreement come in, because just like they say Kemet are European because they dig up some graves in Kemet and find Europeans that come from the post Rome and the late, when the kingdom was falling, Cleopatra or whatever, and now they're trying to use that to say all Kemet was European. So
Mhm.
to eyes is the same kind of thing happening here. But continue.
So the Jews came and they mixed with the Canaanites, and so there began the changing, the lightening of the Canaanites. And so they began, because the people we call Arabs, the first Arabs were African people. And then, of course, the hordes from the north came down, and they came down into places that had already civilizations. Canaan, um, of course, Ethiopia, but at that time, Ethiopia was more Sudan than modern day, where we had Abyssinia renamed Ethiopia. The Falashas there were actually converts, converted by Jewish settlements in Arabia, in Yemen. This I got, I think, from the Ethiopians by Erlendoff, when he talks about Aksum and Yemen. It's a popular book.
Yes, I have it here.
So so my evidence is that the doctrine, the culture of the Bible, the patriarchy in the Bible is not of African origin. There are things put into the scripture they got from Kemet, like um, the sayings of Solomon, Proverbs. We know it came from Amenemope. The Purim Heru was what they adopted to their culture, and they created the books of Moses, the what we call the Torah. Now, in our story starts not with Kemet, but it starts to the south, what we call up south, because the first accurate map drawn in the world by Muhammad al-Idrisi of the 12th century, Africa was at the top of the map. That was the right perspective, because Antarctica has land covered with ice, and Iceland, Greenland is bare water, a lot of water, and a lot of ice. So obviously the water sinks to the bottom. So it was always viewed that Africa was actually the civilized top of the earth. So the River Nile ran from south, the longest river in the world, over 4,000 miles, runs from the highlands, from Lake Victoria, um, Ethiopia, Lake Tana, and they go down to the Sudan. So our knowledge came from inner Africa, like I said, from the Twa. And then because when the Europeans came to Africa, it was the first time they saw a national deity. At that time, all villages had their own deity, and you couldn't intermarry in those villages. So when they came and they saw this 42 gnomes or 42 cities come together making one federation. And that was the beginning of African unity. Some may think African unity came about after colonization, but African unity was happening all back then. The different gods we have are the different deities of each nome, of each city. The nome, there was a nome, and the deity was Amun. The next one, the deity was Ra. Next one was Heru. Next one, Set. Wunet, the hair. So we had different deities related to our totems. So these are things you don't find from the Eurasians. You don't find from Europe. It's confusing because Europe is not a, as we know, it's not a continent. It was called Eurasia. You know? So we see that the civilization coming from the south, going to the north. At that time, pure Africans. And later on, we have the invasions by the Hyksos, who Josephus claims were the Jews, or maybe ancestors of the Jews. And then you have, because it was after the Hyksos were defeated, then later on came the writings of the Torah. So these people came into Africa and got our first spiritual writings. And then they went back and created it to suit their culture. The culture of barrenness, the culture of spoliation. This is what we see in the Bible. Go, they don't know me, they don't praise me, kill them, take their women, and take their booty. So we see a whole different, Diop calls it the two cradles system. The cradles of the north and the cradles of the south. So we see the Ankh in South Africa, thousands of years old. We see Nabta Playa, which is 5,000, 6,000 years old. Then we have Adam's calendar, I think they call it Bio Brashkal. That's over 70,000 years old. So at that time, there was no story of Jehovah. There was no story of Yahweh. The Jews were not yet into existence. So our story is unfolding. So we cannot claim, especially as a Rastafari people, which is a very young people. If you look the science of the Kenga, of the Congolese, you have sunrise, noon, sunset, and rebirth, midnight. Kala, Tukala, November, and Musoni. Right now we are in still our sunrise. As a people, we have not matured yet. So we cannot claim to know the fullness because our African history is in the middle of being unfolded. So what I find with Rastafari is that a lot of Rastafari, they've forgotten their history. Not only African history, but the history of the Rastafari movement. Some Rastas say we started smoking marijuana because of the Indian. No. Some of them say that a bongo man is a man with big dread. No. Rastafari started not with Christianity, but with Kumina. It is in the Kumina you find the smoking of marijuana. It is in the Kumina you find the bongo man. You don't get that in Ethiopia. Remember, Ethiopia was colonized through Christianity by Izana, by Frumentius.
According to His Majesty, Christianity reaches before, but and this is a point that we have to correct, that that was a conversion of the royal court. His Majesty says Christianity reached with the Ethiopian eunuch. And from that time, he says that it spread throughout the realm. And then, of course, when Frumentius and them came, they found a place that was right for their thing. Here's the problem I have with the Kemet philosophy. One, Kemet did not withstand the time. If you believe in the Almighty is the author of all things, Kemet crash. You know what I mean? So Kemet never really had the fullness. Ethiopia alone stand out of all of the African cosmology. Ethiopia alone stand, even to this day. And the other thing is that His Imperial Majesty, who from a young age, studied Kemet, Kush, all of the philosophies that the item study, but yet still bring forth a teaching that affirms the same biblical teaching. It does say seek secular knowledge. And this is the thing. Who is wiser than Kadamawi Haile Selassie I? I have not met that man, no disrespect to the eye and the great scholars. I study Rastafari and his acquisition of ancient texts, ancient books, reading them in their original languages. He was a bibliophile. He was also a linguist, according to testimony of many. And yet still, his teaching is a teaching. I didn't grow up with the Bible, so I don't carry the same type of trauma I know a lot of us carry because of the European colonization using that tool. But again, the Almighty himself points, when we talk about the liberation of the African continent, when we talk about the establishment of that entity, which to this day has now taken root and spread as His Majesty declare. Again, it's Ethiopia that stand. So that to I affirms, because most African traditions were oral. So the fact that you didn't have the writings, the Hebrews, these were stories that, so to I don't try to fight that the Hebrews borrowed from Kemet, because there was intermingling. These were ancient stories from Sumar, all of these things. If you look at the work of Chester Higgins, who is a renowned photojournalist who has gone to countless archaeological sites, done photography, he documents, again, the Hebrew connection with the Nile Valley civilization. So I don't try fight the borrowing and the reflection of all of these things. Where the Kemet thing popped down for I is that Kemet, the cosmology did not withstand, because as I know in the ancient world, your people rise and fall by the power of your deity and that you hold in esteem. And again, it was not Amun Ra or Heru that free black people. It was the Lion of the tribe of Judah. That can't change. So, but continue, because I want to really get the fullness, because I think a lot of us don't know, we hear about Kemet, but we don't really know the intricacies of that civilization, which I do think was one of the greatest African civilization. And in terms of manifestation, spiritual manifestation, I think it showed, and the pyramids to I remain as a symbol of that greatness. However, I don't think it erased the legacy of Ethiopia. His Majesty shared his genealogy, again, which goes forward to the biblical and to the Kushite. So, for I, for the item cosmology to work, it means that His Majesty basically don't know what he's talking about. But continue.
Okay. Thank you. All right. First, let's talk a little bit about. Let's hit the note on um, Philip baptized in the Enoch
Mm-hmm.
of the court of Candace. Actually, it's Kandake.
Kentucky, yes.
Kandake of Ethiopia,
Mm-hmm.
or I should say Taseti, or Takinset, or Tanahisi. So we're not talking about modern Ethiopia. We're talking about the Sudan. Christianity didn't arrive in the Sudan until the Romans came in, and that was long before you have modern day Ethiopia being called Ethiopia. So when we speak of he come in Philip in the court of the Kandakes, we're talking about a time when that is much more ancient.
Well, you're familiar that Aksum conquered Meroe and Sudan, and that
Yes,
there was a Christian empire
under
in
Izana.
Sudan,
Yes,
yes, and
under
also
Izana.
that the according to the story that the eunuch was reading the book of Isaiah,
Mhm.
a Hebrew script at the time, denoting that he was of the Hebrew faith, which is consistent with the Ethiopian claim of the Hebrew tradition being in Ethiopia from the time of Menelik I. So um, again, I mean, yes, Kandaki, yes, Sudan, but I think people don't understand in the ancient world that people were traveling, people were moving up and down. The highlands of Ethiopia always had civilization. They always had people that were there seated. You know what I mean? The the Sudanese, the Nubia, you know what I mean, became powerful because of its intersection, of course, of the Nile River and became a fertile. But there was always, this is why we have obelisk in Aksum. This is why we have so much interplay between the culture. The Nile Valley civilization is very difficult to parse it out and say this is that and that is that. There was control throughout the Nile Valley civilization. But
Okay, okay. Now the Bible we have, it says the earth is 6,000 years old. If you check the chronology of the patriarchs, you'll go back to 6,000 years. But we know that from the Australopithecus, the Homo habilis, the Homo erectus, the Homo sapiens sapien, we know that goes back to what? 15 million years. Yeah. So there is a inconsistency and really a dichotomy between scientific finds and the whole story of the Bible from Genesis. Then, of course, you have the the notion of the divinity of His Imperial Majesty, which I think is a very important topic because a lot of people they chop down the humanity of His Majesty to make him into the God of the Bible, and they give him the powers of omniscience, omnipotence, and being omnipresent. And if we have to apply this on His Majesty, it would be a grave error on our part. So I'm not one that would say His Majesty was perfect because imperfection is the spice of the human being. It is through our imperfections that we grow, that we learn from our mistakes.
What would you say is imperfect about His Majesty?
Well, there are certain decisions His Majesty made I thought it wasn't right decisions, you know.
Block up the sound. Which decisions? I'm a defender of the faith.
allowing allowing the Italians to remain in Ethiopia
Okay.
after all what they did, marrying Ethiopian women, and at the same time really coming down on the Ethiopians that sided with the Italians. So also him,
So the mercy of the king you felt was a mistake.
yes, there is such a thing called foolish generosity. We as Africans should know that there is such a thing called foolish generosity. We have reached out many a times, and each time we paid the price. His Majesty paid the price. And when I look at Rastafari, I see it as something, it's a movement. It should be moving. It shouldn't be stagnant. We should be learning more, increasing our knowledge. If there are books we have to do away with because we found better information His Majesty probably never knew. In His Majesty time, he didn't have the internet. But one thing he said to us was to read voraciously. Marcus Garvey said the same thing. Always read. Always read. And I find...
Yeah, I also know the internet is very lacking in terms of certain books. And I tell young people this as a man that does a lot of research. And there's also a black market trading in books and antiquities. A lot of the scrolls and these things. His Majesty was part of that whole fullness, if you by Lockhart. So
J. Rogers, Leo Hansberry.
I mean, that was the tip of the iceberg, but there was a lot. When I talk about Asian texts, I'm talking about texts I'm talking about texts in ancient Hebrew, Greek, Latin, these things that were hidden, that, the archaeologists, when they poach a site, a lot of things don't reach the museum, that show I true history. When you talk about Sumer, when you talk about all of these things, a lot of when you go further back, you go in terms of research, you see the blacker things get. So, I would be careful when you try to limit the knowledge of Kadamawa Haile Selassie. There are a few people who research His Majesty more than I. I don't meet them yet, you know what I mean? But I'm open to meet them. And what I find, a lot of people kind of take His Majesty light because of what you see, and not recognizing the real world that His Majesty live in. So what you would ascribe to His Majesty as imperfection, I would ascribe as dealing with the real world. And anybody who has run an organization, much less a nation, will know that there are certain decisions. Sometimes you don't have a good decision to make, but at the same time, you have to move forward decisively. And unless you know the full picture, because Majesty don't just respond for Ethiopia, He responds for the entire earth, white, black, beyond what even I deal with. So I just caution, a lot of I and Rastafari is like we kind of put His Majesty in some little category, like Wnnefer Jengo, or he's just a regular man. And what I would say to my brethren is take another look, you know what I mean? Because there's never been an eye like Kadamawi Haile Selassie I on the planet Earth. And I tell the eye that in a real life, So when His Majesty blocks certain things and put it there for the generations, I don't see anybody with the resume because to I, it's not just the doctrine, it's because if the Almighty is with you, that spirit that lives within you, it manifests in your work, in what you're able to achieve and what you're able to accomplish. And to I, this is why Kemet, to I cannot stand, because Kemet never survived the Roman and Greek incursion and invasion. The Hebrews, as small as they were, because of the Ethiopian intervention and the transference into the holy mountains of Ethiopia, which preserve the authenticity from that time. This is um, the power that ultimately liberated the people, set the captives free, warned the nations, called down the judgment. So you would say he's not omniscient, omnipotent. I would say the irit that manifests, that we see manifest within Rastafari and Makonnen is omnipotent, omniscient, and omnipresent, which is why the word of Kadamari Haile Selassie become timeless. You can read any speech, any song, and it transcends time and space. The highest of himself shall establish I and I. Addis Ababa becomes capital for Africa. And this uprising that we're even seeing now in the Sahel, the red, gold, and green now, which we see in the Burkina Faso flag. All of these African flags come from where? Ethiopia, not Kemet. So to I love Kemet still, because black man like I and I, but I and I will always represent Judah as a black man tradition. And these Ashkenazi Jew, the European Jews, they have no tradition. When you research their tradition coming out of Europe, they don't trace forward to the Levant from a genetic perspective. They don't trace forward to Kemet. They don't, there's no connection. There's a conversion. I think that's established. So to I is Ethiopia is what poked the holes in the Kemetic warrior.
Let me just say something about Kemet and civilizations.
Mm-hmm.
All civilizations rise and they fall.
Yes, I.
It's the same. I was speaking about the Kenga, which is sunrise, noonday, sunset, and midnight. Birth, maturity, transcendence, rebirth. All civilizations, all things, relationships, people, planets, stars, everything takes this cycle. So no civilization is gonna be there forever. Civilization, Kemet lasted for thousands of years. Many of the civilizations today are only what 200 and something, 300 years, and they were already crumbling. Now, Ethiopia or modern day Ethiopia, Abyssinia, is a special place. We have to know the history of Ethiopia, their relationship with Europeans. It was actually the Europeans that saved them from Islam, from ground left handed. And Europe was looking for an ally. The Europeans were looking for an ally in the form of Prester John to fight against the Muslims. And what they did, what was the Portuguese, they took over the Swahili coast, they ended causing havoc in India. But the Portuguese met that Prester John, who was Constantine or Constantinos, because the Roman Empire and the Aksumite Empire were very close when it came to trade and when it came to their epistemology, their ontology of the world. So this is, remember, all this is happening on the fringes of Africa. We're on the fringes, but into the deep heart of Africa, where everything began, that's when you reach to the Congo. That's why in Christianity, you cannot find smoking of marijuana. In Christianity, you cannot find spirit possession in well in our system. We call it the fire key. In Christianity, you do not really find dreadlocks.
Are you talking about you're talking about European Christianity?
I'm talking about Christianity on the whole.
So then how would you explain the Bahatawi?
Well, the Bahatawi, that's they grow their locks, yes. But the
You
smoking
see,
of
the whole
marijuana,
argument crash right there, so
no, it
because
can't crash.
we
It can't
can't
crash.
European Christianity is a corruption. I think we would agree 1000% on the fact that European Christianity is a corruption. But we're not talking about, we're talking about Ethiopia because of all of the civilizations on the earth, Ethiopia stand. There's no point in history where you're gonna go and Ethiopia is not there. Even the Kemet people themselves say their ancestors forward from Ethiopia, from the
Well,
highlands of Ethiopia.
well, we
So
have to remember Ethiopia is a Greek term. We never called ourselves Ethiopians. Tasseti,
according to the the Ethiopian church,
mhm.
Ethiopia comes, the Greek word Ethiopia comes from is foundation, so that the Ethiopians are the ones that start with that sound. Um, so that is to
Give
I.
me a little more. Give me a little more information on that. The Geese, and I know about the Greek king Aethiops,
Hmm.
which was a fable. But
Hmm.
I know the Geese came from Arabia. It's a Semitic script.
So when we say Semitic, because I think these terms also, what is Semitic when we talk about
Semitic
Semitic?
has to do with Eurasia and they call it Afroasiatic.
You see? So how can it be
Afroasiatic.
Eurasia if it's Afro-Asiatic?
Well, it's Afroasiatic, meaning a combination of the two.
Are you familiar with Joseph Greenberg?
No.
He's a linguist who,
Hmm.
because the argument was that Hebrew was an Indo-European language. This was
No.
what was put forward by Joseph Greenberg, broke it down and showed that in every aspect, all of the Semitic tongues which come out of the Afro-Asiatic groups are African in their uh, construction and cosmology. So the language itself has no tie to Europe. And this
No.
was tried to be proved. You can look up Joseph Greenberg. And
No, not I agree it has no tie to Europe. It has no tie because they were speaking Yiddish and they researched
yes,
the ancient Hebrew, but the Hebrew came from the Paleo Hebrew, which looks much like the Phoenician script.
and this is what I'm saying. This is black people culture. This is what I'm trying to get my family to come to, because there's no way you can tie the Asian culture to Europe. This was
No,
tried
no,
this
no.
so long,
No, no,
this
no,
is
you
why
cannot
we
tie
get
it to
the
Europe.
white Jesus. This is why we get the white patriarchs. This was a
Now, do you
Roman.
realize
Yes.
that the Abuna
Hmm.
in the Orthodox Church was interviewed on BBC? And when the lady, I forget her name, was attractive,
Hmm.
middle-aged, dark queen, was asking the Abuna of the Orthodox Church in Ethiopia, modern day Ethiopia, why why is she seeing white pictures of Jesus in the churches in Ethiopia? So when some people say Christ was born in a cave in Ethiopia, some people say, but give me the real story, she was asking the Abuna. The Abuna's words were, well, Jesus Christus, was a Jew, and Jews are white people. So the Abuna the highest priest of the Orthodox Church,
Mhm.
says that Jesus Christus was a Jew and he was white. Okay?
This would contradict with their own drawings in the monasteries, their own conception. The church has been corrupted, family. You know, from Mengistu time, I don't know if you know the history of the Orthodox Church, the schism that happened under Abuna Yisak, the whole how white Jesus started to come into Ethiopia, all of these things, you know, and these are prophesied things that would happen. But when we look at the most ancient um, pictures of the Hebrews from Ethiopia. And, you know, I've been to Ethiopia, you know, I've reasoned with ones, and they will tell you when foreigners come, the itrates and things that they share with the foreigners is not what they have in the forward that they keep. Ethiopia is very secretive from the same Ahmed Grand time when almost all of their history and culture was destroyed, you know, by that Islamic revolution. You know, they lost most of their records. Grand burned almost everything to the ground. From that time, they've been very secretive in terms of the history, what they share with foreigners. But when you do see the ancient itrates, you know what I mean, before the corruption of the church, I remember also that the church fought against His Majesty too. So to I, and this is why I'm not an Orthodox. You know, I don't follow. I would defend the faith because of what they have done as an institution to bring about the unity of Ethiopia through dark times. So I always defend the church, but I don't look at the church as being of, particularly the church of today, of being an unbiased arbiter of the history, because their own history contradict what the man say, and their own imagery would contradict what he's saying. You know, I think that's a nice way to try to fit in to that Vatican system that now controls all of these institutions. So that's Simon Sound. That is, you know,
Well, you go. Remember, you're going against the highest man in the church, in the
yes,
Eastern
yes,
Church.
yes. That's why I don't join that church. You know what I mean?
Now let's speak a little bit about. I know time is winding. Let's speak a little bit about Christianity.
Yes, go ahead.
The early settings of Christianity. The the different sects of Christianity that started the movement. What comes to mind is the discourse between Origen and Celsus, where Origen is saying that most Christians do not even know what they're reading in the Bible.
I would
That
agree. I would agree.
that there's a lot of esoteric knowledge in the Bible that the layman is not privy to. And Origen says, look at Greece. Greece, when you go to the temples, they have a lot of secret information. Okay? Secret information that's hidden in the poems of Hesiod and in the poems of Homer. So he's saying that in the Bible there are two levels. There's the level of just the literal meaning, and there's the spiritual lesson. The literal meaning is historical fiction. A lot of it historical fiction. The esoteric meaning could last forever because we struggle with forces that are ever present within and without. And this battle between the polarities is constant, regardless of whatever age you live in. So we can see there is an esoteric and a exoteric. There is Yeshu or Yeshua, and there is Jesus the Christ. Yeshu, according to the Sanhedrin 43a, says Yeshu was hung on a tree. In the astrotheology, he was crucified on a cross. He had 12 disciples. And this is astrotheology for the sun going through the constellation belt. Oh. And in that Sanhedrin, it says he had 5 disciples. And he was crucified. He was hung on a tree for sorcery. And then we have the astrotheological story of Jesus, the 12 disciples, the different stories, all being retelling of the cosmic reality of the sun going through those different constellations, being around different seasons, different different forces in creation. So my teacher and I, we dived a lot into esoteric knowledge and masonry. Okay, a lot of people don't know masonry is just Mary and sun, the sun put in the middle, and you have masonry. Has to do with the widow's child. So when you go into the esoteric levels of the scripture, there's a lot of information. But the cultural perspective, the patriarchy and the bigotry of this divine that created everything and everyone, having the audacity to have a chosen people, and being a colonizer of gods and a instrument of spoliation, that you can take other people's thing and build your own. There's not much difference between the Israelites and the conquistadors. The Israelites came proclaiming their God is the only God. The conquistadors came saying their God is the only God, and that they had dominion over the world because of this concept which they got from the Bible and the experience of this deity with its chosen people called the Israelites. So then the Bible was used as an instrument of colonization. And the Jews, the Muslims, and the Jews, the Muslims, and the Christians all were considered the people of the book. And the only people that were worthy of being enslaved were the traditionalists. The traditionalists who saw the spirit of the divine in everything. Call them animists, they call them vitalists. But this is where the persecution came in on the traditionalists of Africa. So Kumina would be from the Pharaonic culture, because the Pharaonic culture didn't die. It just migrated out of the Nile Valley and it went to West Africa. We have the Dogon, we have different Nox civilizations, we have different civilization rising, and in their own stories they say we came from the Nile. So we see the culture of Kemet still there with our totems, with our ancestral spirits, okay, what they call ancestral cults, and this is still prevalent today. So the culture in Kemet, it hasn't died at all. Also, going back to His Majesty and His divinity, His Majesty himself said, there is no perfection in nature. And of course, no mastery has been arrived at in any craft, because there's always room for improvement. If something is perfect, that means there's no room for improvement. That means there's stagnation. And stagnation, of course, leads to rigidity and ultimately death. It will die. So, His Majesty I see in His divinity, I see as Him practicing what we call self mastery. Self mastery. And Of course, he wasn't born without semen, like the story in the Bible, because in that story in the Bible, there wasn't conception through sex for 3 generations. The story of Mary's mother. The father was not Joachim. A dove rested on her belly, and she had Mary. The Holy Ghost entered Mary, and she had Jesus. So we see that the story is so depersonalized.
Where are you getting the story of Mary's mother?
Well,
What?
that's in an Ethiopic book.
Okay.
Yeah, that's in the Ethiopic book of Mary.
Okay.
So what I'm saying is that let us, as Rastafari people, Rastafari is an African revolutionary movement, a revolutionary movement to rediscover who we are. It was stolen, it was taken. They didn't tell us that our history was lost. They told us we had none. Marx, Engels, Hegel, they told us Africa didn't contribute nothing to the world. And now we're learning that, hold on, we invented writing, we invented paper, we invented the first spiritual writings long before the Bible or any story of Adam and Eve. And it was actually these stories that they took and they applied to their perception of the world, coming from a land of barrenness, a land of the deserts of ice, the deserts of sand. But we had a whole entirely different philosophy. There is no Ubuntu in the Bible. There's not one example of Ubuntu. You are because I am because you are.
Some would argue the words of Yeshua, love thy neighbor as I love thyself, would fall
Yes,
into that. Love the Most High with all your strength, love thy neighbor. These are the, you know,
yes. But
because
then
to
we can all,
what Yeshua has done is take what was within the mystery schools and bring it down into the ghettos and bring it to the regular people. So now it
mm,
becomes a common aspiration that man seek that divinity within himself. You know what I mean?
mm,
So to Yeshua changed the whole planet, because even in Kemet, it was the God Kings, the people were at one station, the royalty was at another station. And now Yeshua brought this down to say, bring it forward to the fullness that all of I and I made in the image and likeness of the Almighty. His Majesty say that from the time of Yeshua, the heart of man becomes the temple of the Most High. You know what I mean? So Torah is a revolution. Um,
well, Christianity started out as a revolutionary movement against against Roman oppression, and it started with African people rebelling against the Roman, but then the
I'm
Romans took it up.
yes, I'm full agreement. That
Yeah,
was my
they took it up.
reasoning, that there is a reason why Rome adopted this religion and left Jupiter and their lifestyle. There's a reason why they co-opted, because it was
Yes, of
into
course.
the empire.
Yes, because it says, if a man slap you, turn the other cheek. And it is easier for a camel to go through an eye of a needle than for a rich man to enter heaven. This is of in the the theology of Christianity. It has a lot of contentment in misery, and this is what was Leopold II of Belgium. This is what he used going into the Congo. He made sure he told his priests, do not teach them about taking another man's wife. Do not teach them about stealing. They know all this already. What you should teach them of is where it says, slave, obey your master. And they should ignore the riches under their feet. And our years, thousands of years of observations of the stars and nature and creation, which we codified in our religions, in our spiritual systems. They replaced it with divine inspiration. That anything they said, that was it. Because they were divine and they could tell no wrong and do no wrong. So we see the Judeo Christian myths helping in the destruction of us as a people. And what I found is that we shouldn't let Christianity stand in the way of us learning our history and adapting things that is outside of Christianity. Well, we smoke weed, that's not Christianity. We conjure up spirits in Nyabingi because Nyabingi herself was a queen who was deified, and through her mediums like Muhumusa, she was taken, she was used, her energy, her spirit was used to fight against Christianity and colonization, just like Nehanda. So Nyabingi has to do not with Ethiopia, but Uganda, Tanzania, Rwanda, Zimbabwe. The Bongo Man.
Yes, give us that history, the Kumina. Give us that history because we spoke about it briefly off air.
In the book.
Yeah, go ahead.
In the book by, well, as you said, I'm just like you, Kwesi. I'm a bibliophile.
Mm-hmm.
So I have a nice study of books. One of my most precious books is, I know you know him, E.S.P. McPherson.
I know E.S.P. McPherson, but I have not read, I cannot claim to have read all of his works, you know?
This one I have there is The Culture, History, and Universal Spread of Rastafari. 2 essays.
Hold it up so that people can see it. Do I have it there? Yeah, hold it up. Haile. And big up the elder, E.S.P. McPherson. I did get a chance to read
He passed on.
Yes.
Passed on not too long ago. He's an ancestor now.
And I wonder, I also, before we seal up, to talk about the I teacher as well and just give a tribute, you know?
Yes, I will.
Yes.
So in this book, he talks about...
Give us the Kumina.
Yes.
The whole...
So in this book, well, going back to the Kumina came from the Congolese, the different nations of Africans that came to Jamaica, and they were carrying on still with the African traditions. In St. Lucia, we had the Kele that still honored the deities like Shango. But remember, these are cosmic principles that we call upon within ourselves. Okay? So we had the different nations coming and they're synchronizing the African spiritual systems. We had the Kumina. We had another one they called Jonkunu. And we had the Mayal. Then we had the Pocomania, Zion Baptist. Now, all this was pure African, slowly being filtered, slowly taking on the Judeo-Christian myths and forgetting about our original African heritage. So, in the Kumina, you find out that the Bongo Man is the man who gets messages from what we call Kamupemba. Kamupemba is the spiritual world. And he comes and reveals it to the people in the physical world, what we call Kanaseki. So the Bongo Man is the one that goes, that does, that conjures up the spirit, and is the one that talks to the spiritual world and gives the messages to the people. This is where the term Bongo Man comes from. And marijuana was used to get into contact with the spirits of creation. And when, it's because everything has a spirit. There's a spirit in the marijuana plant, and all you need to know is to how to extract it. They call it a fat soluble herb. Once you use fat, you can take out the spirit of the plant. So we came from the kumina, which was our original outlook, an original expression. And then slowly we began to take in the Christian dogmas. And today, many of us have forgotten our original ways as African people. So Rastafari really started from the Kumina, not Christianity. And also, this book you can learn about a lot about Bantu cosmology by Dr. Fukiao. Name is African Cosmology of the Bantu Congo.
So Lion Pride, I'm the reading Ras. We promote the reading of books. That's why I love how the brethren putting up his sources, high level Rastafari reasonings. We have 59 people on here live. I think we just broke a Lion Talk live record in terms of people watching live. So this reasoning is spicy. I'm glad the item love it. We also have passed 24,000 subscribers in the Lion Pride while we were here on air. Clap yourself, Lion Pride. We are bringing high-level Rastafari reasoning. We're breaking that stereotype that Rastafari just smoke herb and sing reggae music. I don't think this brethren ever run out on a stage. I don't know if he's a musician, but he's a scholar. You can see the brethren is well versed. And also, I want the family to see, again, I started by saying unity does not mean uniformity. So we can go, forward and forward. We may disagree on some points, but we learn, we read, and, brethren has given a lot of homework that we can go and search, and likewise, so there's so much joy when the family comes together. We're not going to let doctrine divide us anymore. We have work to do. And again, I big up the Lion Pride for following us on this journey. We're just getting started. I haven't been reading the comments, but I love what's going on in the comment section. All the people are commenting, facts dropping in the comment section. It shows the intellect of the Lion Pride. And we are gathering here. This is a place on this platform where we can gather, as, the greatest story ever told is unfolding, which is the story of people of African descent coming through great tribulation. As the brethren saying, reclaiming all of this ancient knowledge, resurfacing, being studied. We are rising in our knowledge. It's not just regurgitating what has come before, but we now, as the adults, because I and the brethren are close to the same age, same generation, and now we can reason and share. So if you love it, comment where you're watching from in the comments. Let us know how far. We have 55 people on live. Let us know where you're watching from so that we can feel the love and we can demonstrate to the world that this is international, this is true unity, but continue, brethren, talking about the thing.
Okay. I was showing the Hosea.
Yes.
The Hosea, I think, is a book we should replace the Bible with. The Hosea.
Okay.
The Hosea
what is break it down.
The Hosea was put together by Malana Korenga. And in there, you find teachings of Ipor, Nefertari, Amenemope, Kagemni, Ankhshonki, Imhotep. So these are writings of the ancient sages. Remember, they told us we never wrote.
Yes.
They told us we never wrote, and the only book they let us read was the Bible. The only day we got a day off was a Sunday. And they told us the seventh day is the Sabbath, but originally we had 10 days in a week. So this is going back to our space. We are on the inside looking out. Others are on the outside looking in. We are trying to adapt our spiritualness to the material world. Whereas the Eurasians are coming from a material perception, trying to peep in and see what is spirituality. But the Africans lived with the spirits. We painted ourselves to resemble spirits. We dance spiritual, the deng, the twa, they were called the deng. The twa, they were called to dance the spiritual dance of the nether. Remember, Heru, Osar, Oset, all these are contained in the human being.
Please break that down, that story about Haru, all of that, because I think that's a powerful story.
Okay.
Yeah, I can break that whole story down about Haru, Aset,
Okay.
all of them
All right.
thing there.
My teacher and I, when we dabbled in esoteric knowledge, we got to learn that the Bible is really about what happens in you. Heaven is your head, and hell is your heel. And you are trying to keep the energy above the heart. From the heart to the throat chakra, what we call expression. The higher qualities of life start from the heart. The lower qualities, the heart is like the mid-heaven, and you have three at the bottom, three at the top. These more in tune with your carnal nature, the higher levels of expression and intuition are the divine qualities of the human being. So we got to learn that there really is no Satan. And what we call Satan is actually the essence of time, the depreciation of everything. At first instance, it's wonderful. You're so enthusiastic. And then, of course, because of time, you may get tired of it. You may not watch it with that gleam in your eye anymore. So it is with work, so it is with relationships, so it is with everything in the world. If you have 10 ripe mangoes, you put one rotten one, it rottens everything. You have 10 rotten mangoes, you put one ripe one, they rotten that ripe mango. So we see time is depreciation. And there must be balance with the cosmic energies that ride within us. So in the scriptures, what we may think they are referring to nations, they are actually referring to your vices. And these vices that must be transformed. So this is more the esoteric part of scripture. So I learned that the Bible could be read in two ways. I have chosen to stay away from the Bible because, I mean, I was a Bible thumper before.
Yes.
So I've chosen now to go easy on the Bible and go into my African. I want the original. Give me what's authentic. His Majesty Haile Selassie I was born into a Christian nation. He was tutored by Jesuits, and he said that the teachings of the Jesuits is their type of education is what he wants for his people. That's why in Ethiopia, many people don't know the history of Ethiopia, but they know the biblical traditions of Ethiopia. because it's because of the education system. When he asked, I forget this guy's name, of the Canadian Jesuit University to come and help to educate his people. But he was aware of the pitfalls of Eurocentric education. But he went along with it anyway, and it was his demise. There's a book by Ai Kweyama, What Net Shemsu, and he goes into the independence leaders using the tools that destroyed their continent to try to build it back again. And that's only because they were not armed with the knowledge of our ancient unification from 42 nomes, and we became the most powerful nation in the world. This is the power of Kemet. The power of Kemet is because there is no more documentation of a civilization. After the Rosetta Stone was found and the language was decoded, immediately Europeans, Asians, um, uh, Middle Easterners, if I can use that term, Arabs, were claiming this civilization. But they knew before that it was an African civilization. In the works of Count de Volney, The Ruins of Empires, Count de Volney speaks about him looking out at the Sphinx because he came in with Napoleon in 1798, I believe. And he saw what they call the Sphinx, the Heru Emaket, the Heru on the horizon. And he noticed its strong African features, you know. But then later on, it was bombed by a Muslim. Many people think Napoleon bombed the nose, but it was a Muslim who bombed it. The same people today that claim the civilizations for themselves. So we see that Kemet is like a storehouse of information, the beginning of esoteric, the beginning of spirituality, religion, especially from the Ipetai Sut or Karnak, where it was the grand university that gave divinity to the entire world.
One thing I would say about the Jesuits, because that was something that startled me when I first read about the Jesuits from Canada coming for the education system. However, when you look deeper, you would see that His Majesty, as Rastafari, even before the coronation, made many efforts to reach out to African Americans. He said he had preferred African Americans come because they would cause less social disruption, because they look like their fellow Ethiopians. However, these efforts were blocked by the State Department. One of the largest funders of the early UNIA was young Tafari Makonnen, and made outreach to Marcus Garvey. There was a deliberate strategy to separate Marcus Garvey from His Majesty. We're gonna
Okay, you froze. Okay, while you're frozen, I guess we're still running. Yes, this was the book, The Ethiopians by Ollendorff. I think it was first published by Miguel Lorne. I have the Ileg verses of His Imperial Majesty. Another book I think everyone should have is psychologist Dr. Wade Noble's The Island of Memes, Haiti's Unfinished Revolution. And of course, I have Diop, which is who's one of our greatest minds, linguists, physicist, chemist. I think my brethren is having some technical difficulties. But if we're still live, I think we may be still live. So I'll continue speaking until my brother comes back. Not seeing any questions. Wish I could. But yes. So what I'm saying is that Rastafari should keep on moving and do not let the faith of His Imperial Majesty in Christianity. After all, he was born in that realm. Only a Christian could be emperor. And it was not for his religion that we African people turned to His Majesty. It was more because of his statesmanship, because of what he represented. In a time of slavery and disenfranchisement, we saw a king in Africa and a king of Ethiopia, which we saw in the Bible. The Lion of Judah, another title we saw in the Bible. So His Majesty was a Christian, but Rastafari is not a Christian denomination. And we do not aspire to out Christian the Christian. We go before Christianity, before Judaism, before Zoroastrianism, before Islam, before Maya or Hindu. We have our original. We were the first. We not only were the first to create writing, we also the first to give the world a sense of divinity, a codified expression of this cosmic world through a spiritual system of self-realization and an awareness of what was happening around us, on the earth, beneath the earth, in the heavens. This is my publication. It's called Wahem Misu. Wahem meaning repeat, Misu means birth. So it means the rebirth. And in there I did a piece on Rastafari. Yes, I did a piece on Rastafari. And it's a very good journal. It's a journal. On the back, I have E.S. Rassi, E.S. McPherson, Dr. Philophilo Benga, Jedi Shemsu Jehuti, Jacob Carruthers, and also M. Fundishi Jahutimas Kayan Heru El Shabazz. So it's a good read. It also talks about initiation and the similarities of the wisdom of Amenemope and the Proverbs of Solomon, the Hymn to Atan, and Psalm 104. Okay, this was written, maybe like 6 years ago. So I hope I've shined some light on the history of Rastafari, how it developed from the Maroons, practicing our Kumina and it turned to Jonkunu, Mile, going to Pocomania, and becoming more and more Christian as time went down. We are an African revolutionary movement looking into our distant past, what that was hidden away from us for thousands of years. This is where Kemet is very important, and Diop says we must go into Kemet and we must learn from the writings on the walls. And this is where they got all their stories from. If we are to say Haile Selassie I is omnipresent, that means he was in the plains while they were dropping the bombs on these people. If we are to say he is omnipotent, that means he could have stopped the bombs, but he chose not to. If we say he's omniscient, then what of his courage? What of his steadfastness? So these things we have to think about. I was speaking about Kemet, Osar, Heru, and Oset, and I did say they are cosmic powers, human cosmic powers. When the earth made love to the sky, it created the human being, or it created human powers, human attributes. We had Osar, Oset, we had Heru, Set, Neptet, and we also had Anpu. And these are the cosmic powers that dwell within every human being. From these stories, they came up with different versions in their stories coming from their ecological perspectives. Osar, of course, represents the subconscious. Set represents the immune system, your ego, your defense system. Heru is the will, connected to the Ib, the Hati, the heart, or the conscious mind, rather than his father, who is the subconscious. So these deities we tend to think of as gods were actually cosmic principles. Okay, before I leave, I don't know if it will still be running, but let me speak a bit about my beloved elder who passed away just this morning, or maybe in the evening, the night before. And I met him at a very tender age, in my teens, and he raised me up to the perpendicular in the knowledge of self, knowledge of Africa, knowledge of African spirituality. And it's a sad day in St. Lucia for Rastafari people and for many people who knew him and his big family. He had the voice of a roaring lion, and he was a ghetto man as well. So he could be rude, and he was hardcore.
All right. Give thanks for holding it, family.
Yes, yes. I was just speaking about my elder.
Yes, please continue. And
Yeah,
we had technical, the whole internet crash, family. So this is why we give thanks, my brother, for holding. This is collective security in action. You know what I mean? So really give thanks. Continue.
yes. I was speaking of Ras Abdullah, and he is like, I would say, like a Rastafari legend in Saint Lucia because he was one of the first Rastas on the island, and he made a lot of young men put their locks and become Rastafari. Um, we were actually planning to write a book about the history of Rastafari in Saint Lucia. Okay? And I remember he told me the story that the first man with dreadlocks was a Muslim in Saint Lucia. But then the Rastas came, I think he said two Rastas came from Jamaica on a boat. And at that time, the prime minister gave them 1 day on the island and then get out. So I think he met them, and they were the ones that started Rastafari in St. Lucia. And he, along with some others, because I keep company with 60s and 70-year-old brethren, you know, because that's really who I can really converse with, and so and have a good back and forth. So a lot of them are, of course, departing us,
Yes, yes.
joining the land of the living dead. And he just joined our ancestors this morning. It was
Wow.
very sad. He was one of the top MCs on the island because of his voice. He had this big voice, commanding voice, and his knowledge. More I studied, more I realized how much he studied. You know, and when I have like, if I have to go and do a lecture or I have to go and do anything, I always call him up and ask him what points, run it by him, what I would be doing, how I would do it, and we were building our study. Right now, we maybe have like going to 400 books, and we're also collecting African artifacts
Nice.
because we've been doing that for the youth, especially because, as you know, in the Caribbean, we have some serious issues with crime and gangs, so we're trying to inspire the children. It's not just about the knowledge, but how you become and how you become the evidence of that which you've learned.
Mm.
Because in
Crucial.
European university, they teach you how to regurgitate information. And their idea of the perfect human being is closer to a computer than to a man, you know. So it's not only about the information, but learning the eloquence on how to deliver it, and also to live up to that information and be a shining example. So this was our journey. We were on this journey for quite some time. Right now, I will have to raise up someone to pass the books on to them.
Wow.
Uh, so this is how I think it should be for Rastafari people. We should have our elders who are constantly seeking for that path which we strayed from, and to keep it clean and always, because they have something saying, what is hard to attain is harder to maintain. So it's not about just getting the information, but how do we express it and how do we live it and how do we pass it on to make it endure? Because as we said before, time depreciates. So we have to learn how to balance and make our endeavors endure.
What works does the I do to earn, and does the I have a
Well,
family? You have children. How
well,
a
I
little
have a
bit.
daughter.
Yes.
I work for the government. Also, I teach online. I teach
What
actually
area? What department of government?
the public service,
Okay. Give thanks. Give
and
thanks.
then I teach youth online, whether it's social studies or reading, and I also carve. I also do crystal jewelry, and I also teach African history, African spirituality.
One of the things I ask all my guests: how can the Lion Pride spend money with the eye? How can this audience put money in their pocket? What is, does they have any products or services that ones can
Well,
yeah.
I wrote two journals. This is the second one called Wuhem Mesu. It
Okay.
means the rebirth, and it's written for. Really, I was writing it for my island and giving the history of Rastafari and shaping our worldview, or should I say, reshaping or defining or redefining our worldview, how we view our circumstance, our disenfranchised circumstance in the West, our political systems. Does it work? Is the partisan politics? Is that it? What's the climax of our civilization? Are we there to just work forever? You know, and what's the meaning of life? Um, Looking at persons like Patrice Lumumba. Um, Here in this one, I spoke about the plagiarism from Amenemope into the Proverbs of Solomon, hymn to attend by Akhenaten, put into Psalm 104. So going into the historicity, and also I did a piece on Rastafari. I spoke about um, Taki's revolt, Daddy Deacon, Sam Sharp, the Mayalists, the Baptist Mayalist War, Bogle and Gordon, Shakespeare and Bedward, the Bedwardites. So
Mhm.
going into the history of Rastafari,
Give thanks.
and this
So,
is to
is there a website or a place where ones can purchase that work?
well, actually no, because I stopped writing
Okay.
some time ago, because this was written maybe like 5 or 6 years ago.
Okay.
And I've been planning to do another issue, but circumstances, with my daughter, with
Yes.
life in general.
How old is the daughter?
She's like 5.
Okay, young daughter, young daughter.
Yeah.
Holy for work,
And
holy
I'm
for
a single father as well, so
yes. That's, I mean,
to
that's why
balance it.
the first thing I said was what holy for works. Me know
Yeah,
already king.
yeah. And my
Especially with a little,
carvings,
yeah, especially with a little girl.
yeah, this I got from Zimbabwe. This is the Nyami Nyami
Okay.
walking stick from Zimbabwe.
Do you have any way that the people can send money to the eye? I'm trying to put money in the eye pocket because hundreds of people are going to watch this. I'm trying to find out all the global family, because a lot of people in the comments love what the eye is saying. I don't want people to love what the eye is saying and they don't circulate currency with the eye. I don't support that lifestyle. I want,
Sure.
love what the brethren is saying, or even if you just, as an upright Rastafari brethren, put some money in the man pocket. I mean, that's the culture I'm trying to create here on the Lion Pride, because we have to, if we don't come, I say this, my brethren, no one is coming to save us. If we do not invest in ourselves, it's better we just pack up and jump off a bridge or do something else. But to say that we are fighting for liberation and we're not supporting the crafts or whatever they are doing, or if it's something, but and if they don't have a way, then link I offline so we can set up something. What I mean, for the eye, because again, every brethren and sister right now need to have a digital ecosystem where people are around, because it's not just St. Lucia. You know what I mean? The eye with the eye, wise mind, knowledge, books, educate. There's a whole world out there that would love to sit at the eye feet and learn what the eye is teaching. But the eye have to have the infrastructure to share that. You know what I mean? So
True.
these are the things. And I would ask the eye, join the Lion Pride on Patreon if you want to become a part, because we're building 100 strong. You know what I mean? Freeway Dread. This is one of my Lion Pride on Patreon. He say authorpreneur. You can be an authorpreneur. You know what I mean? With your books and things. So I'm encouraging the eye to continue to write. And we have several Rastafari publishers as well. You know what I mean? The legendary Raseku Tafari, Frontline Books. We have Dirty Bookman. We have others who are publishers. So, you know what I mean? Continue, and we need to publish. But do you have any digital place where ones can send the iPhones for anything?
Right now, no.
All right, we're
Right
going.
now, no.
Don't worry yourself. We're going reason. We're going reason.
Because right now,
Yeah.
the government, the chief education officer, gave us the go ahead to go into the schools and do African presentations.
Oh, nice.
So that looks very promising. So we're going to all the schools right now, and the last school we went to, it was wonderful. I poured a libation at the beginning. I called the ancestors in, and the students, the students are so far away from themselves,
Mhm.
you know. And I introduced names like Imhotep. Does
Yes.
anyone know Imhotep? I introduced the face of Namer, and I asked the question, why don't we know Namer, the first great civilization in world history? Imagine you go to university and you've never seen this face. And then we spoke of Christopher Columbus and how the person sailing the ship was what's his name? Nino, Alonso Nino, who was an African. And on the other two ships were Berbers, two Berber Muslims, the Pizan brothers, Vincent and Alonso. So our our history has been hidden, and it has been hidden so well from us because they couldn't, after going through chattel slavery, how could they tell us that we gave civilization to the world? And we must look into our past so we can understand our present, and we can chart our way through perilous times these perilous times which are coming, because as His Majesty said, unity is the accepted goal.
Accepted goal. That is it. Give thanks, my brother. I want to say I thoroughly enjoy this reasoning, and it's the beginning of a long connection. I've been to St. Lucia, but I need to return there and ground with the family there. I really give thanks for the work that the eye is doing for the youths, because that is really the battlefield, you know what I mean? Liberating the minds of the youth, social media, technology, all this thing that they're being fed. So thanks that the eye is, bringing our African culture, that self-love to the youth, so that they can see they're not just coming from slavery, you know what I mean? And as a Ras, is there a physical location for all of the books that the eye and the elder collected?
Well, it's basically at my gates. It's in my home, and I'm constantly building because there are so many books I still need to get. So I'm constantly building. My elder is not there with me again.
Yes. So
that's
the eye
like
need to build a true berry. So even these are things that with a digital imprint, you could get ones to help support, so you could build a true berry, or get a property where you could house these books, where the youth them can come in and sit up and read them, and it becomes
Yes.
an attraction in St. Lucia, because I'm a big advocate for reading physical books. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
If you see this is the reading Ras, my logo
Yes.
is a Ras reading a book,
Yes. Yes. Yes.
because
Yes.
because to as someone who does research, people say everything's on the internet, and then when you do
No.
find out a lot
No.
not on the internet, and if it
No.
is on the internet, it's behind a paywall. You know what I mean? It's not
Mhm.
readily accessible to the people when you start getting to some serious
Yes.
research. And
What
yeah.
I've found in my research
Hmm.
into books, there are books that are controlled by universities. That books you will not see unless you join a university,
Yes.
or you are a student of a university.
Yes.
These books are locked off. You
Yes.
can't get a hold of them.
Tell the people.
And
So
there are other books that are out of print.
yes.
One book I think that everyone should have and everyone should have read is 2000 Seasons
Okay.
by Aikwe Ama. He's my favorite author.
Okay.
Another great book, I think, if you haven't heard of this book, it's because he's not a popular author. Vulindela Wabogo.
Okay.
That's Cold Winds from the North.
I want the eye to give me a book list, some top 10 books from the eye, a reading list that I can put on my community tab for the Lion Pride, because um, again, we want to encourage people to read. So, offline, you can send me an email
Okay.
with just, some recommendations, a reading list,
Mhm.
that will bring people that enlightenment, and I'll put it on our community tab. And for those who don't know, when you go to the Lion Voice Network YouTube channel, if you scroll across the top, you will see videos live, and that's where these episodes are, the live tab. But then if you keep scrolling, you'll see the community tab, where we do announcements and different, it's almost like a social media. So I'll post it there, so that ones can go and search these books. Amazon has made it easy to find some works, but like the brethren say, a lot of books are out of print. You can't find them. And then there's a whole black market trade in rare books, that, a lot of the esoteric knowledge, Masonic knowledge, these kind of things, unless you are connected, you would never get access to these type of books. But books are part of our and I liberty. His Majesty, as I always say, was a bibliophile, of all books, not just biblical books. All different world religions, different things. His Majesty was a voracious from he was a child. You know what I mean? Anything he could get his hands on, devoured. So that is part of Rastafari culture that we must emulate. So I'm encouraging the ones to read books. And Ras McCarthy, one of my elders from the UK, is online. He said 2000 Seasons is a classic. So, so you
The
see,
best book I ever read.
and now you give me homework. That's one of the things. That's the downside when you reason with a brethren like this, is that the man gives so much home. I don't have time, people. I'm running a network. I'm
Yes,
trying
yes,
to
yes.
just balance myself,
Right.
but the brethren is giving I so much homework. But that's the joy of this trad. It never ends. You're always a student in this liberty. You know what I mean?
Yes,
Uh, and
there's no mastery. There's no mastery to any craft.
there's no ending, to
No ending.
education. As Majesty said, education stops at the grave. You know what I
Yes.
mean? So I just want to thank the eye for the eye time. I'm going to give the eye opportunity to give your sealing sound. I want the eye to know that we have broken our record for people on the live, with 59 people on here live.
Yes.
62, we just gone past 59.
Wow.
So this is the highest. And to bigger channels, they're saying, well, that's a little bit of people. The Lion Pride, no, we celebrate our wins over here. You know what I mean? We don't try pretty it up. If 10 people was our highest, we celebrate when we had 10 people. 62, we've never had 62 people on a live before. That show you the islandness of this reasoning and the spiciness of
That's
this
right.
reasoning. This pot was bubbled islandful. And we hit 24,000 in the Lion Pride during this reasoning. Fastest
Mm.
growing Rastafari platform on the planet. We did 2,000 subscribers in 7 days because of the iDem. Not I. So clap the I themselves, Lion Pride. All over the world, the word is spreading. The Unity is here. We are building something never before seen. Our elders couldn't conceive what we're doing right now. You know what I mean? Because they didn't know about this technology. They didn't have access to this technology. I'm in Washington, D.C. The brethren sit down in his house in St. Lucia family. We're laughing and we are having a reasoning. I've never met the brethren in person, family, and we are coming together. This is almost like somebody said that the internet is almost like the manifestation of telepathy, telepathic reasoning, because the internet gives us the opportunity to reason with people instantaneously across the planet. You know what I mean? Which, if you think about it from an Asian man perspective, it's really, what I mean, we're living in a miraculous time, what I mean, and we have to use these tools to do what His Majesty has commanded. And as the Virgin so articulately stated, unity is the accepted goal. And again, the mantra for this platform, unity does not mean uniformity. Not all of us are going to think the same. Not all of us are going to dress the same. Our unity is and our diversity of thought is our strength. Never look at it like it's a flaw. Immune system, you have all different things that work within the immune system to make it healthy and resilient. So I really give thanks for each and every one of the item. And this is just part one. We're going to bring forward the bridging again, to go more in depth, and to do further. And we'll have panels and different things. So as the item know, once a guest come on the Lion Voice Network platform, he become family to the network, and you're going to see him pop up over the time. So does the eye have any social media or any platforms, Facebook, anything where the ones can follow the eye?
Well, I'm on Facebook as Wnnefer Jengo,
Okay.
and on Instagram, I hardly go on Instagram, but it's Neferba. Um, that's NFRBA 2504. I forget it because I find Facebook to be a more serious platform, so I'm usually more on Facebook than Instagram. But on Facebook, I'm Wnnefer Jengo, just as
Yes.
it's spelled there. But
Give to
I would just like to read the words of our great sage Ketty.
yes.
Bear in mind, this is older than the Bible, older than the Torah. Be skilled in speech so that you will succeed. The tongue of a man is his sword, and effective speech is stronger than all fighting. None can overcome the skillful. A wise person is a school for the nobles, and those who are aware of his knowledge do not attack him. No evil takes place when he is near. Truth comes to him in its essential form, shaped in the sayings of the ancestors. Well, I want to thank you for having me and the great work you're doing. And I realize you've opened the platform to people of different perspectives, diversity. It's very good. They say diversity is the spice of life. And I appreciate you for what you're doing. And I want to say to the family, keep on trotting. Our mission is free Africa, one Africa. Instead of 50 odd presidents, we want one president. Instead of spending so much money on all these different posts, each country having so many different diplomats and persons in government, let's have one government for the continent. It's already begun, as you said, in the Sahel. It's already begun. And we too must also remember, of course, in our memory, and also remember our fractured selves, whether it is within or without. Extend our circles. Don't keep ourselves closed off. You know, remember, rigidity is not righteousness. That we must change, we must grow, and we must become. And if we look at His Majesty and how he lived, if we look at how he lived, the things he said, I'm not talking about the things he said to the Christian denominations, because if we look at him when he speaks, if you look at his speeches when he speaks about Christianity, he's always speaking to a Christian congregation. So we have to know how to use our words, how to be diplomatic with our words. And I just want to say thank you to everyone. And it's a bittersweet moment for me. Sweet to be here, but bitter as I just lost one of my confidants, my dearest friend, my cousin, my teacher, my elder, Ras Abdullah. But I will still be communicating with him, because it is said that only things that are forgotten are buried in the cemetery of the past. And once we keep them alive, they exist in the present to influence what we do right in the here and now. So I want to say thank you to everyone. Dua abet, dua na chair, ankuja sineb, hetepu, Rastafari.
Haile Selassie I the first.
Haile.
Before the foundation of the earth was set, it was ordained that the I would come on this platform on this day to give tribute to the great Ras Abdullah, so that the global family would know that an ancestor, has left the physical realm. So we didn't plan that, you know what I mean? So just to show you how the Most High power work, that the I, of all the days the I could have come on this platform, this day to even block that sound to the four corners of the earth, that this great ancestor has passed. So we give tribute to the elders that came before us. We give tribute to the great works that they have laid. They took beatings, they took brutalization, ostracization, for this liberty. Stand up within the integrity and to teach the generation, the brethren, myself, I have elders as well that are passing around me rapidly. We just lost our great elder Osiris as well. So I know what they are, experiencing when a teacher becomes a part of the ancestral forces, you know what I mean? So I just want to say again, give thanks to the I, give thanks to the comment section. I mean, I've been watching the comment section. I'm seeing networking happening. I'm seeing agreement, disagreement, but respectful. You know what I mean? Respectful for the most part, reasoning. And that is the culture that we're cultivating here on the Lion Pride, where the global family can come together in a oneness. You know what I mean? A oneness family. We have big things. We're just getting started on this platform. Again, the vision is a world-class Rastafari media operation. We want to do news, Rastafari news. We want to have animated films, documentaries, blockbuster films, you name it, from a Rastafari worldview. And we're going to build it with the people. And the item are going to be front seat witnesses. So if you believe in the vision, join us in the Lion Pride on Patreon. If you just want to watch, just watch. You know what I mean? Fit in wherever you fit in, because this thing cannot be stopped. Again, it's not I, it's the Most High that rose I. Put this fire in our heart to do this work at this time, in this Armageddon. And I'll leave the item with this. 2025 is going to be a roller coaster. The whole world is going through a shift, and I must prepare. We're going to be talking about food sovereignty. I'm going to be making some trips this year. So we're going to be showcasing the Black food sovereignty movement that's rising up around. You know, if you cannot feed yourself, you cannot free yourself. So everything that we're saying here, these are the practical part as well. So we're going to be highlighting all of this. You're going to see the movement, the Lion Voice vlog on the road. We're going to be traveling to the Caribbean. I'm going to be in Ghana this year. All of this is going to be coming forward. So stay tuned. If you have not subscribed, subscribe. Again, fastest growing Rastafari platform on the planet. Thank everyone for helping us reach 24,000 Lion Pride members tonight with this powerful guest. He will return, and we will again explore some of these themes. We just touch. We didn't really get a chance. I also want to thank we fell offline and the brethren just held it down both at the intro and never skip a beat. And that is collective security in action. We don't have to talk about it or thing, we just fall into place. The brethren just know, all right, I teach. You know what I mean? The brethren drop off, let me just continue for block. You know what I mean? And that's what we're talking about in terms of the family. You know what I mean? So big up Akashic Reggae records in the Lion Pride. Big up all of the Lion Pride in the chat, holding it with the positive vibes. Big up everyone. Why? Because the time has come for the Lions to tell our own story. And this is
the people. This is Michael Shemaya representing. I say Haile Lion Voice, saying it is time for the lions and the lionesses to tell their own story. King David killed Goliath with a stone, we original dread.
The time has come for the lioness to tell her own story.
Yo, this is Plaga Benz and time have come for the lion to tell their own story. This is the Lion's Voice. Stay tuned.
The fittest of the fittest shall survive. My people, open your eyes. Wake up. Blessed love, this is Queen Omega representing for all lions and lionesses. With the lion's voice, we come to tell our story. Rastafari live it. Hey, the lion's voice. Rastafari.
Greetings, this is Warrior King, and the time has come for the lions and the lionesses to tell their own story. This is the lion's voice. Give thanks and praise for the wonderful blessing that's been poured on me. Give thanks and praise. Jah use I as an instrument to set the people free. Jah give her the powers to chant. Jah give her the powers to chant. Rastafari, the lion's voice.
Amina, the time has come for the lioness to tell our own story. No surrender, no retreat, we are Jaja soldier. Rougher than the streets, tougher than a boulder. Bigging up Lamb's voice. Now put it. I jolly for say that.
This is Sang Davis. It's time for the lion to Ica. For unity is strength. Let us come together, my brethren and sisters, and forward to the motherland. Enough love. This is the lion's voice.
Haile.
Ja.
Rastafari.
I'm Wnnefer. The time has come for the lioness to tell her story from her viewpoint and tell the world who Queen Omega is. This is the lion's voice.
Yeah, David Dread of Steel Pulse, and I'm saying hail to Lion Voice because it's time that the lion have its voice, have its own story. Says I'm stepping out here. Hear me now. Oh, yeah, the lion's voice. Raw.
Well, Lion Voice, tell them that's the people first choice. Lion Voice, make the lioness them feel nice. Lion Voice, with the lion cubs we sacrifice. Lion voice, got to show the people them the life. Lion voice.
This is culture sound.